where would you even begin to look to buy a business?
Yeah, so it is something that we talk about owner operator. So there's owner operator models where you have to be in the day to day, or there's models to where you could be semi passive, where you can hire a manager to do the day to day, and you're not in the business every day. So you take those factors, you look at investment level, because the worst thing you can do is overtax someone in the investment world. And then you also look at the industries that are out there, and we go over the industries and what is something that interests you or something that you think would be great. And then I'll maybe show you something that would be, wow, this is really high margins. Mainly with the athletes, it's, I want to get into a gym or health and wellness, muscle recovery, physical therapy type deal. And a lot of them will go restaurants because of thinking of Shaq and how he did it. And it's like, well, you got to have a lot of money to do that, like a lot of money. And then you have to have a really good team. I would not recommend going into the restaurant business without a great restaurant team and a lot of capital, because it is one of the most expensive investments out there in a franchise, and it is one of the smallest margins, and the margins are only getting thinner. So you have to be well capitalized and have a great team in place to do that. And we talk and go over all those factors, and then what I'll do is I'll show them maybe 5, 10 different franchises, and then we'll talk about them, and then they'll go, hey, that sounds really great.
Yeah, so you are kind of like the real estate agent of buying a franchise, the same way how people would consult somebody when they're buying a home. And you mentioned like the margins and the risk profile and the initial investment. What kind of investment range are we looking at if somebody wants to buy into this? I know you mentioned there was NFL guys involved. Obviously, they're very affluent in the NFL, but is this something that is accessible to somebody who might not be a millionaire? Could other people also buy into franchises? Like, what are the ranges of initial investment?
So the ranges you could get into a franchise, I would say around 100K. You could do vending machines for about 40K. I would say you go up to 200K. I could get you into a franchise that I could show you that will make you 6 figures and up on that for sure. And it goes on up to $7 to $11 million. I mean, there's franchises that, believe it or not, are car dealerships. There's a franchise for that. And so that takes a lot of inventory and a lot of cash. And then there's entertainment centers that have bowling alleys and bars and laser tag, and those run into the $1 million. Typically, those are something that I don't show unless an athlete goes, hey, I really want to do this. It's really hard if that fails to recover from that. And, that's why also when you go to the restaurant business, you're looking at $700K to $1 million roughly. And if it's someone that's all they really have, which that's a lot of money. If I put you in that versus put you into something that is like dog grooming, which is 200K, you could recover from losing 200K a lot faster than you can from losing $1 million if the business went sideways.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so along with that investment, I assume there's probably some property that you're getting a lease on. There might be equipment, inventory you mentioned. You probably have to hire some staff and float payroll for a little while. What are some of the things that initial investment gets you? And then there's ongoing costs, I'd assume, to running a franchise.
Correct. So that initial investment will get you the build out. It will get you everything that you need. So the franchisor will help you with site selection. So they'll help you show you different places that are out there. You pick a site, and then they have the final approval. So you're both agreeing on that. So and then in the investment side, it is. If it's brick and mortar, of course, it's all the equipment that you need. And then the startup cost of what's a grand opening going to cost. In buying a franchise, there's an item 7, what they call, and then they do a range. Like it could be a range of $150,000 to $220,000. that's a big gap. But you have to remember, you're putting this out there for really the whole nation. So someone in California is going to pay a lot more than someone in Missouri to start it, just because the costs are more. And depending on, you might have some equipment from an existing business before that might make it a little bit cheaper. So you do have that. And then oftentimes in that initial investment, the franchise fee is always included in that, and that's a one-time fee that's paid to the franchisor. So that's in there. And then there's also typically 3 months of runway of cash that might say 10 to 15,000, depending on what the franchise is. That would cover, like you were saying, your payroll cost, and just to give you a little bit of runway in the business for that until you start breaking a cash flow.
No, that's really interesting. And so with all these different ranges of businesses and different industries and whatnot, are there some that are very popular or easier to get into? You mentioned dog grooming, which is something I would have never thought of as a franchise that you could buy into. But are there other things that are very common? Maybe they have a smaller real estate footprint, or you mentioned brick and mortar, meaning that you could buy franchises that are online potentially. Like, what are some of the more common ones that people buy into?
So a lot of people do home services where they could be a home-based business where it's cleaning windows of homes, or it's a steam cleaning of homes, or there is even franchises that all they do is clean out dryer vents, kitchen remodel, and these franchises do really well. So a lot in the home service ones are typically those that are going to be around 100,000. So the investment level is a little smaller. Typically that's an owner operator model, but that's okay because, if you're leaving your job, you don't really want that overhead right away. You could start it, build it up, and then have someone do the day to day. So there's a lot in the home industry. Dog grooming, that's a home run one. That's hot right now. Everybody knows it's hard to find a dog groomer. There's a dog grooming franchises that are out there that are reoccurring revenue, much like car washes where you pay X amount of dollar a month. So this one in particular is $50 a month you pay, and you can take your dog in as many times to get groomed a month. So on the franchise, so it's a win-win for the customer, the consumer. You're getting this great deal. For the franchisee, that's reoccurring revenue that comes in, and the margins are super strong. And so dog grooming is popular. There's restoration that's out there. A lot of the health and wellness franchises are really popular, of IV drips, gyms that are out there. There's the another one that's IV drip and Chiro in the same place.
I like that.
So those are great franchises. And then one for golfers is a golf franchise. It's indoor golf, but 24/7 access into the building to where you don't need employees. So it's all automated. It gives you a door code to get in. People come in, play their golf, and you don't need anybody behind the counter. And that one is what we call a super great passive model, where you're really spending about 10 hours in the business.
Oh my goodness, you almost got me sold. So these sound like really intriguing and outside of the typical idea of what I thought of as a franchise. I just think of, McDonald's. Up here we got one called Tim Hortons. It's just like a coffee chain. What's the benchmark, or what would be typical across franchising in terms of earning back that initial investment? Like, at what time period? Obviously it's going to range, but sure, if I put in an initial investment, if I make that money back in 5 years, is that average? Is that fast? Is that slow? Like, how should people think about that aspect?
That would be a very slow return, 5 years. Dog grooming, we kind of get you even in that business well within the first year potential. Home care service, which is helping seniors stay in their home. That one's a little bit long term of to get all your money back, but you're looking at two years on that one, probably 2-year benchmark to get your money back and then start cash flow positive. And that's another really great great business to be in, because we're all getting older, and you want to stay in your home, and you have your care workers go out and help seniors adapt and stay in their home. They even have technology now to where on the TV you can see the senior. The senior can turn the camera off, but they can you can see the senior that if they're doing okay, it'll pop up on the TV. Hey, it's time to take your meds, or hey, you have a doctor's appointment. So there's really, with technology, it's really come quite a long way in the franchise sector for sure.